article in, I think it was today's paper, also in the Times. The Trump administration is considering narrowly defining gender as a biological, immutable condition determined by genitalia at birth. The most drastic move yet in a government-wide effort to roll back recognition and protections of transgender people under federal civil rights law. If you remember, there was a series of decisions by the Obama administration that loosened the legal concept of gender in federal programs, including in education and health care. And the reason was to recognize gender largely as an individual's choice and not determined necessarily by what the human creature had inside its body cavity and between its legs at birth. The policy prompted fights over bathrooms, dormitories, single-sex programs, and other arenas where gender was once seen as a simple concept. Conservatives, especially evangelical Christians, were incensed. Now, that's the first little bit of this article in the Times this morning. What the Christian fascists want to do is reduce everybody now to their genitalia. These rancid fuckers, you know what these Christian sons of bitches say constantly. It was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Oh, that is so goddamn slick and brilliant. Don't you wish whoever came up with that, you could just pound him, it had to be a him, in the face with a claw hammer? To the Christians, because they are so narrow-minded, because they are so riven with fear and loathing of anything or anybody that doesn't look exactly like them, smell like them, talk like them, eat the food they eat, screw the people they screw. And I mean that literally and figuratively. Anybody who is the least bit different from a Christian scares the fuck out of a Christian, especially if that Christian. Now, let me clarify something here. I'm referring primarily to Caucasian evangelical Christians. Christians of color are not as fanatically insane, although some of them are approaching the white model or the white standard. But for the most part, I'm talking about white Christian fascists, and this country is chock-a-block with them. You cannot walk into a church in America on Sunday morning, a standard denomination, the ones that you grew up thinking were proper. You can't walk into one of those without walking into a den of bigotry, prejudice, incipient violence. And I don't give a shit if it's this Jeffers fuckwad down in Texas with his $25,000 congregation or 25,000 person congregation, or some little shithole of a church out here in the country in Georgia. It doesn't make any difference. If these people are Christians, they're against science, they're against diversity, they're against fairness, they're against justice, unless it is the kind of justice that they think exists in their goddamn Bibles. They're against any kind of progressive move to better the human race. If you're a regular listener to this podcast, you know my riff about this. You've heard it so many times, you're sick of it. But now it's getting to the point where the Christians, having total fucking control, they have Trump by his balls. There's nothing he can or will do to piss them off for one reason. He doesn't like these Christian fuckers. He shows it. He showed it his entire life. He has contempt for everyone except himself and his fucked up family. Everybody, and even his family, I don't know how loyal he is to them. But they have him by the balls now, and he will do whatever he is told to do because Trump is a power junkie. You know that. He's not president of the United States because he wants to do good things for the United States. Oh, give me a fucking break. He's not president because he wants to advance the ideas of justice and dignity and honor. He's president because he's a power-mad leech, and he wants to suck everything he possibly can until it's dry. And the Christians love him. The Christians love him because they follow basically the same model of behavior. Everything is fucking rotten unless it's something the Christian fascists can approve of. Now Trump's Department of Health and Human Services is spearheading an effort to establish a legal definition of sex under Title IX, the federal civil rights law that bans gender discrimination in education programs that receive government financial assistance. That's according to a memo obtained by the New York Times. Do you understand what this means? These Christian fuckers are now going to tell you if you happen to be gay, first of all, they're going to tell you you're demon possessed. It'll come to that. Eventually it'll come to that. After demon possession comes what? Burning your ass at the stake, either literally or legally. But one way or another, these fucking Christians are going to get you if this continues. Department of Health and Human Services argued in its memo that key government agencies need to adopt an explicit and uniform definition of gender as determined, quote, on a biological basis that is clear, grounded in science. Doesn't that make you just fucking laugh? Objective, and administrable, end quote. The agency's proposed definition, the agency being Department of Health and Human Services, would define sex as either male or female, unchangeable, and determined by the genitals that a person's born with. Do you realize what these Christian fuckers are doing? They're reaching into the deepest part of an individual, and they're saying, what you think, feel, believe, fuck it, into the trash. It's what we think, feel, and believe about you that is now the standard. We say you're male. If you say you're a woman that happened to be born into a male body, we will fucking kill you eventually. In the meantime, no human rights for you, no legal rights for you, no civil rights for you, you fucking freak. This is how close we are to this. Department of Health and Human Services has already gotten the memo to start this process, for fuck's sake. In the memo, Health and Human Services proposed this, quote, sex means a person's status as male or female based on immutable biological traits identifiable by or before birth. Before birth. Now, the connection between that and a woman's right to have an abortion if she wants to should be very clear to you. These fucking Christian sons of bitches have been worming their way into a woman's reproductive system since forever. We have been in a brief hiatus of that with Roe v. Wade that said, get the fuck out of here. And even that has been compromised. But now what they're saying, not only can they tell you, you fucking will not interrupt a pregnancy, but we will determine the sexuality of what is in your womb now and after it's born. We will lay out the definition. Not you, mommy. Not you, daddy. Not you, little baby. We Christian bucks will tell you who and what you are. And you will abide by that, or we will eliminate you, one way or the other. I have been warning anyone who listens to this podcast, or before it was a podcast, radio program, for years about this creeping, insane Christian fundamentalism. There's a bit of it in the book I just finished. I've been warning about Christian fundamentalism because I think anyone who, even with a cursory read of history, world history, will understand that the Christians are bloodthirsty fucking vampires. They will stop at nothing to kill everybody on earth who doesn't think the way that they think and believe what they believe. The irony is that in the process of forcing everyone to think what they think and believe what they believe, they are killing the earth anyway. I can remember a few years back when various states, I think Oklahoma was one, whose legislature, which must be full of fucking cretinous idiots, passed a bill saying that Sharia law would never be the law in Oklahoma. What the fuck does that mean? Why didn't you people say Christian law? As written in your fucked up Bible, that would never be the law of the land. It's called a diversionary tactic. Focus people on the dangers, and they're there, of Islam. But don't let them focus on the even greater dangers of Christianity. And again, just a cursory look at world history. And you don't have to look far to see the blood and the death and the destruction that the Christian fascists have caused ever since they came up with this bullshit. Everything from the Crusades to the various Inquisitions to the Holocaust in Germany. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. And the other thing that is so ironic to me, Christians have zero respect for life, nothing. And yet they make such a big deal about a fucking fetus. But of course that has nothing to do with respect or disrespect for life. It has everything to do with controlling the goddamn women. Because if you don't control the goddamn women, they'll be out here fucking anything that moves, dropping babies like crazy. And then the caveman Christian male will have to support and take care of little baby not his. I mean, this is old shit, man. This goes back thousands and thousands of years. The Christians just codified this shit. Oh. The Times says the new definition of who you are, the new definition, they're going to fucking define you. The new definition would essentially eradicate federal recognition of the estimated 1.5 million Americans who have opted to recognize themselves, surgically or otherwise, as a gender other than the one they were born into. And let me tell you, I will fucking guarantee you, as well as I'm sitting here, that it's more than 1.5 million Americans who have opted to recognize themselves as other than their gender assignment at birth. But the Christians don't give a fuck. It can be 1.5 million. It can be 30 million. They don't give a shit. You will be what we tell you you are. What the fuck? Do you understand this, listener to the podcast? Do you get the severity of what I'm telling you? Catherine Lahman, who led the Education Department's Office for Civil Rights in the Obama administration, and the person who helped write the transgender guidance that is now being ripped to pieces by the Christian fascists, she said this, quote, "This whole idea takes a position that what the medical community understands about their patients, what people understand about themselves, is irrelevant because the government disagrees." Do you fucking get this? God damn it. I mean, I cannot scream and shout this loud enough on this little goddamn podcast. But you understand what is happening. The move, the Times goes on, the move would be the most significant of a series of maneuvers, large and small, to exclude the population from civil rights protections and roll back the Obama administration's more fluid recognition of gender identity. Exclude the population. They're talking about people who identify gender-wise as other than what they were assigned at birth. Exclude them from civil rights protections. That's the goal here. What happens when the civil rights protections are gone? Then the legal rights protections are gone. If civil rights and legal rights are gone, what happens to that human being? That human being can be denied life, either by being denied a job, a position in society, food, water, shelter. You can't buy a house. I'm not going to hook you up to the city water supply. Go dig a fucking hole if you want to drink water, queer. Until finally, it can become open season. Queers, transgender people, gay, lesbian, anything not the Christian insistent fucking legal norm can be legally eliminated. That means killed. The Trump administration has sought to bar transgender people from serving in the military and has legally challenged civil rights protections for transgender people embedded in the nation's health care law. Several agencies have withdrawn Obama-era policies that recognize gender identity in schools, prisons, and homeless shelters. The administration, Trump, even tried to remove questions about gender identity from a 2020 census survey and a national survey of elderly citizens. For the last year, the Department of Health and Human Services has privately argued that the term sex was never meant to include gender identity or even homosexuality, and that the lack of clarity allowed the Obama administration to wrongfully extend civil rights protections to people who should not have them. The Trump administration is deciding who should have and who should not have civil rights protections. Trump! This is fucking madness! Trump! Manipulated, of course, by these Christian fuckers who've been trying to do this ever since that gelatinous Jerry Falwell burped up on the scene with his moral majority horse shit and began corrupting modern politics. This is where we are. Do you fucking understand this? God damn it! This is why, if you're not a Christian fascist fuckhole, you better go vote November 6th. And I don't give a goddamn if you don't like the Democratic candidate running against the Christian fascist Republican. You better vote for him or her. You can wait for your perfect fucking candidate later. Because if you do otherwise, dear heart, there may not be a later for the political system.
Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.